Thank you.
Today's actual release day.
The actual release day.
That's awesome. What does that feel like for an artist, letting your music go and allowing the public to kind of take it and own it?
It's cool. I mean, it's interesting. Like 14 records in, I guess it's not like the same as it is like a couple records in, you know? I remember when Hospital Music debuted at #1, and I got like a phone call, and I had ordered pizza. And I was like, awesome, okay. And then I was like, well, I just went back to watching Deadwood, you know? I don't know. Yeah, it's cool that, it's cool to get people's reactions and have it out there. And I think there's a sense of finality when it gets out there. I mean, you're going to go tour it and play it and that kind of thing. But as far as it being, a piece of work, there's a finality to it as an artist, so that you can now go on, from there.
What was interesting was I was going to run out today and pick it up so that I could check it out. When I realized today was release day, I just went on to Apple Music, added it to my collection, and streamed it.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of adjusting to that. I'm 50.
Yeah.
I still like the physicality of buying something and reading the liner notes and looking at who produced it and where it was recorded.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to do with streaming.
I know, and that's the thing with this, all that's in there too. I put all the lyrics in it and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it is a thing. It's weird for me. Like, I use Apple Music largely for my own material. Like, if I've forgotten something, so I can go back and learn how to play it again, I kind of use it for that purpose, and that's pretty much it. It's a difficult question to answer, because the reality is that I think that new artists, they're in a kind of a different dimension than me, because I was established kind of in a very different era, and have a fan base that carried through this entire technological transition. So when I put out a record, it's basically, I'm not going to get the multi-platinum sales I had in the past. I know that's not going to happen. But if it's a vehicle to then go on tour, then that's the purpose of it. So
you were in town yesterday performing some songs for a YouTube event, and were interviewed by Alan Cross.
Yeah.
Did that all go swimmingly? I did not look at the clip, but I understand that.
Oh yeah, I went fine. Me and Alan just make stuff up on the go. We've been doing it for years. I mean, I don't think I've walked into an interview with Alan ever without Alan looking at me and going, yeah, let's just wing it, So, but no, it went well. Yeah.
Cool. Now, you touched a little bit on this. I'd like to ask you a bit more. Do you feel that the internet and online music streaming has ruptured the music industry a bit?
For me, there are different kind of segments to that, really. I mean, I think that it's hurt the album. Well, not hurt the album, but pretty much decimated the album idea in a lot of ways. In a lot of cases, there are bands that don't necessarily, or artists that don't necessarily have to begin what they do by cutting their teeth, by going out and playing and, and working their careers that way. And, and the sad thing about it is the ones that do that and that are the ones, and do it well are the ones that stand the test of the time.
Right.
So you get this kind of traffic jam, as it can kind of convolute things to the point where, well, there's a really hot song, and everyone's really digging it. Will they buy the whole record? Will they listen to the whole record? Who knows, Or will they just add it onto their playlist because they like to jog to it? You know what I mean? Whereas exactly the definition between consuming something for art, as in, to enrich your life in that way, and being open to maybe even expression that makes you uncomfortable, that you'll learn to accept, and may even come to be special to you, as opposed to just kind of willy-nilly picking stuff out, right? So, I don't know. But then again, I mean, a lot of people could say that there is somewhat of a correlation between the singles era in the 50s and today, right? I mean, still back then you had to go buy a 45, right? But it has that same kind of draw. You put out a song and a B-side, and and go with it.
If you like the song, you'd buy the album now. Like typically the 45 would precede the sale
of the record, right? And so, but but also things were different back then too. I mean, on most of those tours, a band would only go up and play 4 songs, and that would be their whole thing. They wouldn't be performing for 2.5 hours, So.
How do you think you would do if you were 19 years old right now and you were starting out, putting your first or your second album out?
Well, I wouldn't be. I would just do music as a hobby. I don't think I'd try to enter the business whatsoever. I don't think that. I think at the time that I entered the business and how how everyone went about everything, it made sense to me. And I don't think today I would really be able to wrap my head around how to make sense of it. It's kind of a difficult thing. Like, when you listen to artists like Bob Dylan or Nick Drake or Billy Bragg or anyone like that, and imagining them, you know what I mean? Like having the same kind of impact that they did at the time because of the fact that they performed live and there was that connection with people. You kind of wonder in all of the kind of, I don't know, it seems, and maybe you'll disagree with this, but it seems that there will be a band or two that'll come out, and then there'll be like 7 bands that'll come out. They're almost kind of exactly the same band. Now that's always been something that's happened. I mean, late 80s metal is a perfect example of that. But having said that, I think that it's gone to a pretty big extreme now. Whereas in the past that was largely limited to things in certain really popular genres like pop and hard rock and stuff like that. It's entered pretty much most major avenues. I think that's unfortunate, but...
Can you share a little bit about your writing process? Do you have a formula that you like to follow, per se?
Not at all. It changes all the time. I don't write with I don't think on this whole record, except for maybe with one song, that I pick up a guitar and that was the first instrument I used. Usually I'll start with bass a lot of the time. Sometimes I'll use like vintage stuff like Moogs and that sort of stuff to work things up, and then go from there. It really depends. That whether the lyrics had come before that, or I did them as I was doing it for the sake of melody or whatever. It changes all the time.
Can you recollect some of your earliest interactions with music? Maybe talk about some of the first memories you have when you were experiencing music, or you aspired to be a musician? Never
aspired to be a musician, to be honest with you. I went to the Vancouver School of Music as a kid and played the violin, but didn't like it and couldn't play one now. But classical music will always be, from my parents, will always be, the major thing I remember. That and Simon and Garfunkel. My father was absolutely enamored with Simon and Garfunkel, and Jim Croce.
Some artists that I've talked to tell me that they have a hard time deciding when a song is done. So they're in the studio, they're working on it, and it's almost like, okay, move on, we're moving on to the next one. Do you find that you have a similar problem in that you will get to the ending of your songs and you want to go back and revisit them, or redo an album?
I think that's a problem that happens with inexperience more, and then the more experienced you are, the more you come to terms with the fact that something is what it is, and it is what it is for its time, and that in leaving it alone, you go on to something else.
So we're not going to see any George Lucas versions of some of your old albums, then? You're not going to go back?
There will be no Lucasing.
Did becoming a father change your approach to making music in any way, shape, or form?
I worry about my kids sometimes. I would say that they influence it. Going forward, being a single parent, I don't know, how that'll be, but I'm sure that it'll have its own avenue of inspiration.
What for you has been the hardest song to write, and why?
I don't think the hardest song I've ever written, or the most difficult thing I've ever approached musically, has ever been released. Actually, ironically, the title of this album and a track on this record, that title was taken from a song that I wrote that was in movements that it was 21 minutes long. And I would probably say that was the most difficult thing because I used almost everything in the palette at my disposal, from strings, piano, guitar, bass, drums, horns, you name it. But I don't know that it was difficult in so much that it was just a challenge, really. So.
And I understand that nothing except the title from that material made its way on this release.
No, nothing did actually. It was that's the funny part about it, and it couldn't have because everything was interconnected in such a way, and there was, I think about the 11-minute mark, there's a key change, and so. And then trying to write lyrics to something that's all based in movements is really extremely difficult to do.
2 beautiful videos online. The video for Decades. Lovely cinematography.
Oh yeah, they did a wicked job. All those guys, and Max, of course. He'll be Will Robinson in the Netflix Lost in Space. And so most of the guys on that shoot were all from Lost in Space. So yeah, they did a fantastic job. I mean, I wrote it up, made some minor changes, and then we shot it. But yeah.
And Bad Guys Win. I just can't even thank you enough for that song and video. It's perfect.
Well, the song, I don't know about the video. I think the video's a little too over the top for my personal taste. I had nothing to do with that one, so I can't take any credit for it.
And yet, a very effective piece of cinema.
Yeah.
Given the events of this week, do you have a Gord Downie story that you can share? A memory, something that happened while you were interacting with him?
Every time me and Gord hung out, the one thing I always remember about him is he always made me laugh. There's always witty quips about something, you know what I mean, in the course of a conversation. He was like that. So something kind of, I guess maybe some people don't kind of think about it when they think about him, but yeah, he was.
You still blog a fair bit. Dear San Diego?
Yeah, I do some creative writing basically, but I don't know. I kind of do it when I can, really. Yeah.
You post a fair bit. Like I went through and sort of looked at your date stamps. I'm like, that's a lot. Like a lot of people can't find the time to do one a week. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, it just depends on when it hits me. I write them really quickly, so. And I write them on my phone of all things. Yeah, I write them just in the notes thing on my phone, and then.
Do you feel that there's a musician out there who has never let you down?
There's a lot of jazz musicians that have never let me down. I don't think the Pixies have ever let me down. To be honest with you. And I mean that in their original incarnation up until Trompe Le Monde. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say let me down in any given sense. I wouldn't say that didn't let me down. That's such a tough question.
Yeah, it's loaded, right? Like,
it is because it happens. I mean, it's like you're a fan of REM all the way up to Document, and then it goes wrong, kind of thing, or whatever. But I don't know that I really count the first Talk records as Talk records as a hardcore fan of that band. I know even It's My Life I've done. That's not really. I don't know what he was doing when he did that. I mean, when everything started for me with The Color of Spring, and I mean Spirit of Eating and Laughingstock are seminal albums. Explosions in the Sky probably would be in there, maybe.
Do you have a Matthew Good Spinal Tap story that you can share?
Oh God, I've gotten lost, locked out of buildings so many times. Run-ins with security guards about not doing this or that, or who met or whatever. Yeah, there's been plenty of those things, misdirections. Never been trapped in anything that a blowtorch was needed to open. No embarrassing airport stories. So
no puppet show.
No puppet show. Yeah.